So welcome to our Sydney Inside Track event. This is the second event this year. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we run this event and as well as previous one remotely. But I see great presence of people. We had about 80 people registered to this event, and sometimes I send also direct links. So probably we'll have even more people joining our event. Our first speaker will be Cody, and I will speak a little bit about him, or he will introduce himself, and he will speak about the design thinking and how this specific methodology been used for Fiori Launchpad homepage design, the new one, specifically with Fiori 3. Connected to this topic will be the second topic presented by Thomas Reiss. And you see it is a little bit swap between the first speaker and the second speaker. Thomas will speak about SAP Fiori 3 available in the new version of SAP S/4HANA on-premise. He will speak about the spaces, central entry point, and more. I expect presentation how not only S/4HANA but also other SAP and non-SAP applications you could run through the Fiori Launchpad. And this will be one of the most important topics, I think, in SAP going to the integration of multiple applications to the seamless user experience. And as the final notice to our presentation today, I will present how we could use the new functionality called custom fields adoption, how we could create on the fly in standard SAP applications new fields and utilize it in various UIs, reports, without the need to copy and create a new Fiori application. Also, those fields available to multiple bodies and multiple APIs. The new one, the OData APIs, as well as the SOAP APIs, and we could find utilization within minutes and no need for deep development knowledge in this. So in this topic, I'm just trying to see our second presenter not really joining us, and I will wait a few more minutes. I will just speak about him. So I'd have to present. Adam is a senior engineer with SAP, and his main topic is SAP Fiori architectural topics and SAP UI5 development. He is from, I believe, is Ireland on England. I think that's why it's very early to him, probably 7:30 in the morning. Hopefully he will join us later. Our second speaker will be Thomas Reiss, and meanwhile we're waiting for Adam. Maybe Thomas, we will utilize this opportunity and you will be able to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Tom Reiss. Hi, everyone. I'm just actually trying to call Cody on his mobile, but
oh, okay.
Reach him, but
is he joining?
Not getting any response on his mobile. No, because he wrote the email that he asked you to ping him on Skype or something 10 minutes beforehand.
Okay. So just
but doesn't seem to be available. Yeah, so maybe, I don't know if you want to try to Skype him in parallel or something. But anyway, my name's, as you can see here, Tom Reiss. I've been at SAP for a long time, since '93. Always working in sort of innovation areas and development typically. So if any of you do any integration work, IDOC integration, ALE, that was, I was head of development back in the 90s for that. That was my topic, and moved on to other areas. I'm getting a call back from Cody. Let me just take this. Tom Reiss, hello. Have you got network trouble or? Okay, excellent, excellent. Yeah, we're just in the call now. I'm kind of introducing myself up front to gain a bit of time. I'm live here on video, so everyone's listening to me talking to you. So we'll look forward to seeing you in a minute or two. Okay. All right. Yeah. Bye.
Okay,
So I
don't
guess you
worry,
guys
it's
heard
very
that he
unofficial.
had network issues. His whole network at home seems to have failed for some reason, but it's come back up now, and so he should be joining us in a minute or two. So yeah, anyway, I was kind of introducing myself. Like I said, I've been at SAP a long time now, since heading up the ALE IDOC integration started in '95. I actually moved into the CRM management team when we started out on the CRM journey, and also started work on topics like business configuration, extensibility, the Easy Enhancement Workbench, for example, in the CRM. I took those topics actually then to Business by Design. So I spent 6 years there doing sort of configuration work and extensibility for that product, and moved then later to the packaging area, rapid deployment solutions, sort of building the internal tools that were needed. But my heart always beats for the product, and so when I heard about Fiori coming along, I'm also very interested in great user experience. I think it's so fundamentally important. I joined the design team 6 years ago, and I'm just thinking, in fact, soon it'll be 7 years. Time flies. Product manager for Fiori, basically overall. So as you can see, you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm English. Born in Bristol in England, and went to school there, studied there, and as you can see in Cambridge. Between my degree and my PhD, I actually spent 2 years at BASF working in computer security. Back then it was also quite fun because we're talking now 87 to 89, just to show you how old I am. I was actually programming the RSA algorithm. Of course, everyone uses this for security these days, but back then there was basically no software available on PCs, or it just came out actually in those days to actually use the RSA public key algorithm for encryption. So that was actually also quite fun. Kerberos, this authentication approach, was also brand new from MIT back in those days. So that was certainly interesting. So I've got certainly an interest in programming, but of course now these last years more in management and, like I said, product management now for Fiori. So bringing user requirements, understanding what the users need, making the user experience better, but of course also helping to drive adoption and drive our development, prioritize what needs to be done and find good solutions. Yep.
So this group is actually, we kind of ambassadors of the new technology. We're trying to introduce new technologies and use it, sometimes ahead of in SAP officially trying to push it to the clients. So people have been invited, working in the area for many years as well. I believe if we accumulate experience of everyone, we'll probably need 5 digits or so.
I'm sure.
And what is important from us, we built in Australia a little bit disconnected from major markets like US and Europe. Not say like UK and Europe is like one. So what we try to, in order to close this gap, I started to invite people from other markets as well, just to be able to share with us what we probably not yet seen. And I see that Adam just joined us. At least I approved.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry for the delay. I was having some crazy network issues this morning in Irish time.
All right. Thank you. So thank you for your introduction, Thomas. I'm moving to slide provided by Adam. And Adam, probably you could introduce yourself better than anyone else.
Yep, sure. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get the webcam working. I don't see. I think I'm having more issues with that, but I'll use it without for now. So My name is Adam Cody. I work in the COE organization, so I'm a senior support engineer. So I deliver what you could think of as consulting workshops to customers. In the past, I'd spend the majority of my time traveling from workshop to workshop all around the world. But with this year, we've really had to adopt the remote model. So my main focus is the user experience. That's the first and foremost of what I do. My team is the UX and mobile team, so we're really focusing on user experience and how that's part of our customer journeys. And part of that user experience is obviously the move from ECC on native GUI to S4HANA, SAP S4HANA on SAP Fiori, and we're using design thinking a lot lately to really show customers how to design these user interfaces in a better way and ensure that the end user has better feedback and can interact a lot better than they did in the past. And I cover topics not only related to design thinking, but also Fiori architecture. And in the past, I was also I started off as a SAP UI5 developer in the old, more traditional style of SAP UI5 development of building, SAP UI5 apps and connecting them to data services. So I have a good bit of experience there as well. Okay, that's enough for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, and you will be our first speaker. I'm coming back to the agenda, which is swapped speakers. Our first speaker is Adam, and I came to know about your topics through your blog, which I'm posting here, and I will also share those slides with everyone if you would like to receive more information. This is from the blog. So Adam, will you be able to share your screen and begin your presentation?
Yeah, I'll share my screen now. I'm just annoyed about the lack of webcam, but I will try to fix that as we go as well. Okay, let me share.
What I found interesting once that there is the physical button that you could switch on and off your camera on the side of your laptop. And sometimes if you're putting your laptop inside the bag, it's touching the side of the bag and probably closing the camera. It took me about a day once to find out what was the issue, that camera didn't work. So maybe just look on some button that's on the side, switch it off your camera.
Yeah, no, I'll try everything and hopefully something does work eventually. Otherwise, I think we'll manage. Hopefully you can see my screen with the slides and I can get started.
Yes, we could see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. As I said with the camera, I'll keep the hope that it's going to work. I have a slightly different setup where my laptop is closed under my screen, so I'm using an external camera, and sometimes it's very has a bad mood and it doesn't want to start sometimes. But I'll give it a minute or two. I'll try again. But otherwise, I think we'll just jump in. So first of all, I think it's good evening, I should be saying in Australia, and it's you should be saying back to me an extremely good morning because it's currently 7:50 a.m. here. So what I'd like to do, and thank you, Adi, for the opportunity for involving me to speak at the event, is I'd like to just go through kind of the rationale and explore in more depth a recent blog I wrote on the SAP blogs community. And the reason for writing the blog has been, I suppose, a long frustration I've been having with the workshops I said I delivered earlier as part of my profile, where we're talking to customers about their UX strategy, their UX approach, and one of the questions always comes up. So, we have these 2,000 Fiori apps. How do we design a Fiori Launchpad? And the answer in a lot of cases for a lot of our clients is we don't give it much consideration. We use the standard roles, we use a standard layout, we use a standard look and feel. We leave it pretty much as is, as default, and this, it's a big mistrick, and it leads to a lot of frustration both for the user and then for the organization once they try to really see what the value was of Fiori And then sometimes they can even end up in a situation where the performance of SAP Fiori is now slower than ECC, just because of the way the system and the solution has been designed. So that was the reason behind why I wrote the blog. I want to use, or have been using, the concept of design thinking and SAP Fiori Launchpad Home Design in tandem to design roles which are focused on a particular end user's goals and needs, and really focus that homepage on what are the roles they need in terms of the applications, but as well as that, do they need anything else? Are they during our workshops, our design thinking sessions, are they crying out for a chatbot? Are they crying out for notifications? Are they crying out for searching? And these are the kind of things, these are the kind of conversations I have. So in the interest of time, I'll just jump in to the slides. If there's any questions at any stage, just feel free to interrupt me and ask. So we're going to go through why, first of all, why SAP Fiori homepage design is important. You know, if you follow the blogs in that space, you'll see a lot of blogs from my colleague Jocelyn, who really goes through in detail why designing Fiori is really important. But I'll come to you today with how design thinking can help us here. So we are going to then understand some of the basic concepts behind design thinking, just give you a bit of a recap and not go into too much detail on what design thinking is, but just at a high level, and especially on how these concepts can be applied to SAP Fiori homepage design. After that, we're going to just have a look at some like recent examples of how prototypes have been applied to real world scenarios. Okay, so the first question I have is why does design matter? Okay, so take a look at this design here. Now, I don't expect anyone to necessarily answer, come off mute, but just think to yourself, would you say, you know, this is a good design? Would you say the user will be quite happy with this? This is what they ended up with. You know, as a customer, you've invested millions in SAP S/4HANA, and the end result is this actually, and you're handing this to your end users, and they tell you we don't like it. You don't know why. It's the whole new Fiori solution. Everything is modern. We've activated all the features. You have all the apps. You have all the enterprise search, our SAP Fiori search connectors. Why don't you like it? This. I'm not even joking. We see this pretty much at every client we deal with. This is the default. What you get if you just activate Fiori, activate the business roles, and hand it off to a user, and you know, wish the user luck in terms of using the system. This is what you end up with. Okay, and obviously, if you're wondering why this is bad, well, first of all, you can see there's a massive scroll bar here, which means there's a huge amount of tiles been assigned to this user, and looking at the search criteria here, you can see again there's been a huge amount of search connectors applied to this user. So performance is going to be extremely problematic here. And performance is one aspect. The other aspect is, as a user, how do I even find what I'm trying to do? Okay, you know, I have so many roles here. I have so many groups. I have project management. I have general ledger. I have sales. Do I need to scan these and find, oh, I might be wanting to work in procurement, so then I'll click procurement and hope the app I want is in there. So this is again not a good design, and this we see this as pretty much, as I said, as default. This is what customers tell us they've done, and the complaints are endless about this, and we completely understand, and we do try to get the message across that this default design is not meant to be productively used. This is just a showcase. This is just for people, once they activate the system, to really come along and show people how to use it or how to interact with it. Or in this case, you know, every app is configured, every search connector is configured, so you can just take your pick of what you want to show and then just click it and show it, and it should work. That's the idea behind this. So does anything matter more actually than good design? So you can think of, I suppose, a well-designed Fiori Launchpad as essentially the wheels on the car. There's no point in, let's say, tuning the engine if the wheels have fallen off, because the car is not going anywhere anyway. So take a look at this example when compared to the previous one, and you'll straight away see a lot of things that are different. So first of all, this user now only has 3 groups, and in those groups they have a lot less tiles, and nearly all of the tiles are providing some kind of benefit to that user's role. So this user is in the sales area, and the first application they see is a sales overview. And again, starting with these overview pages as the first tile in a group is extremely beneficial, because these overview pages, you can think of the Launchpad as I suppose a 10,000 foot view. But when we come down to the overview page, we're like the plane landing, where we can see the street. We can make out some of the cars and the various things on the street. So the overview page gives that salesperson an extremely comprehensive overview of what's going on in the business. Anyway, aside from that, they still have some ability from the Fiori Launchpad to gain some kind of sense of what's happening on the system. So they can see they have to manage their sales orders. There's a KPI there that's assisting them. Their sales order fulfillment issues. They have an application was telling them about predicted delivery delay, and then so on and so forth. So they're getting a quick insight. And for all of those other tiles where they didn't need to be a full tile, or they weren't really helpful in a way, they've actually used the feature we have as making tiles into links. So this design is following most, if not all, of the best practice, but for more importantly for me, it's focused on this user's individual role. Okay, it's not just like this where it's go find what you need and best of luck. This is really, oh, here's some interesting things that you might need to be cognizant of, and everything is presented for you in an easily understandable, easily digestible way, and it's kind of up to you now to go further. And this might help the user take a very quick action. So how do we get from something like this to something like this? I'll go through it. So you might have been hearing in recent years about design-led development. So this is really a paradigm shift in the way in which we approach the SAP Fiori application development. So you'll see, starting left to right, and you should have seen this before, this kind of wheel of development. You'll see, starting on the left, the discovery phase, starting with scope, research, and synthesize. Don't worry about these terms, we will go through them. Then you move on to your design phase. You go to your ideate, your prototype, and your validation. And then you're probably wondering, why is it semicircular? Because no matter which phase you're in, you can just recap and repeat over the previous phase, and you should do that until you're confident you can move to the next phase. So discovery and design, as part of this process for the Fiori Launchpad homepage design, you'll be iterating over those 2 phases as much as you need to until the design you arrive at is beneficial and suits what the user is asking for in terms of their role, okay? And only then do we actually go to the development phase, where we implement, test, and deploy our application. And even once we do that, we still do our traditional check, ask, and improve. But as you know, if after you've developed something and a user tells you that this is actually not what I wanted, even with Fiori homepage design, you will have to go back, not to a developer, but to the system administrator, and tell them, okay, these tiles are wrong, these authorizations are missing, this role doesn't have the right access, and it's all time-consuming stuff. Whereas if during the discover and the design, we can get to a position or a place where we have considered most of the aspects of what the user needs, the amount of check, ask, and improve in the delivery phase, I'm not saying it will go away, but it will be substantially less, and the cost of it also will be substantially less. So we do this up front. And the good thing about discovery and design is we really don't need a live system to start these phases. This is just something where we need an imagination and a whiteboard, and we can really start planning these roles and how they interact. And then once we're confident, or at least confident we've talked to the users and got an understanding, is we can move on to the next phases. Okay, the traditional approach. So, you may have seen or interacted with our older UX solutions, the SAP GUI for Windows, or so on. These focused on purely the user interface. They didn't pay much attention to the user experience. So yes, there is a difference between a UI and a UX. And you don't even need a degree in design to understand that this kind of user interface is, again, it's not, it served its time. It serves the functionality. You get things done, but to use this, you really need training. You really need someone to guide you, and then even then, it's very easy to make mistakes. So the user was not at the fore of our discussion. When it came to these designs, we didn't start with a role-based approach in terms of what the user would need. We started from a functional approach of what the business process needs, and the user was along for the ride. And even today, we see many customers not validating draft ideas with real end users before deploying productive solutions in SAP Fiori Launchpad design. So we have this assumption from the past that, oh, I didn't have to configure anything for GUI. Why do I need to configure something now for Fiori? Because we are actually asking people to take this seriously and to incorporate new roles into their organization, roles like UX leads, and for the existing roles for security, for basis, and so on. We're asking people to upskill, to now have new knowledge, like in terms of the RESTful ABAP programming model, or cloud application programming model, or UX or design. We are, a lot. And this is why this happens. This is why it's kind of parked. It's not thought about it, or the right people might not be in place to make the best decisions sometimes for these topics. So that's where we're coming now with this. We're really trying to push forward this new mindset. So what is the new mindset? Okay. So you may or may not be familiar with SAP Activate. And if you're not familiar with SAP Activate, the simple version is make something and then discuss it. Okay. So SAP Activate, start with a fully configured solution, and then find the gaps between that solution and what you want to achieve. Okay. So similarly, for design thinking and SAP Activate, the mindsets are very similar. Okay, try out your user roles by creating prototypes of how those roles will be visualized as a homepage for the system. And then fail on a whiteboard, and do fail often, okay? Not just for the sake of failing, but the idea is to learn how to better build the solution with feedback from the real end users. Okay, so this is the mindset: make something, create prototypes, and fail often and fail early. So just a word on the fundamentals of design thinking. We need people. We need to get role insights from real end users and business process experts. They know how the end user knows how the system worked in the past and what they would like, and the business process expert knows what it needs to do. So they guide us. Process, as I said, we fail often, we fail early with our role design. We don't need a productive system to get started. We just need a whiteboard, and we need those users to give us that insight. And then the place. In the past, our place would have been a whiteboard in a shared conference room where we can all collaborate. But today, the place is most likely going to be your desk at home with your computer. And this doesn't mean that we somehow pause or stop our design-led development, that we just wait till everything's back to normal. No, this is giving us a new opportunity to change our mindset. There's many virtual whiteboarding tools out there. There's many collaborative tools. Even meeting tools like Zoom have a lot of features that help us. So we should definitely be taking advantage, of this period of relative quiet time and getting these mindsets and developing these thought processes that will help us once we're back. And we will be back. So the team, who do we need? Well, obviously we need the technical expert, the person who understands how to implement. And this is for a good design thinking session, I should say, the team that's needed. We need the design thinking coach, or the magician, I suppose, the person who really understands design thinking, understands how to structure the meeting and bring everybody together and get a meaningful output. Remember, the idea of design thinking sessions is not to have a meeting to talk about things and then everyone goes away. The idea of design thinking is to really stand up, contribute, and develop a prototype. And we need a business process expert, someone who really understands what it was in the past, what it could be in the future, but they know where this needs to go and what needs to happen as part of this process. Then we have our SAP Fiori design expert, which will that person will be able to let us know if we're on track in terms of the Fiori design guidelines. Are we developing a Launchpad like we saw earlier, where a user's role, maybe a power user we're developing for, but did they have too many apps? Are we breaking the design guidelines in some other way? Have we considered how this looks on mobile? And so on and so forth. They really know Fiori and they know what is and what isn't possible. Then we have obviously the end user's perspective, because that is the person. No one else on this team actually has to use the solution, but the end user has to use it every day. So we need their feedback. We need them to tell us what they need, and if we design it even somewhat with their thoughts in mind, we've designed a lot better of a solution. So as I said earlier, find a space that enhances creativity. Could be a shared office once we get back. That office should contain whiteboard, or while we're stuck at home, then just use your home office and use virtual whiteboarding tools. But the space should, whatever space you choose, should foster creativity. So again, remove distractions, try to get some quiet time if possible, and really use the time to collaborate with the team in terms of coming up with this eventual design. So the mindset, again, of good design, find empathy for the user. I know how you feel. You know, these are good statements to use when we're designing roles. I know that, you know, with GUI, the process of trying to find what you need was very cumbersome, very complex. We're trying to solve that with Fiori, not give you back almost the same as what you had in the past with a new code. The process of design thinking should be fun and engaging, shouldn't be boring, shouldn't just be a meeting. The output should be a prototype, something people can work with. Remember that early consensus is the death of innovation, because you're going to have some senior people in these meetings. They can very quickly say, this is the right approach, this is the wrong approach, and really come to that consensus too quickly, where other people might be afraid to speak up. So during design thinking, you have to remove all of these, I suppose, worldly titles, and everyone is somewhat equal, and try to avoid coming to a consensus too early. Always prototype, so no matter if you think the design is perfect or if you think that's 100% what the user said, always create a real prototype, get the real user to use it, and see what their feedback is. Foster diversity, you know, we have to bear in mind the perspectives of many different people. We have to think about what different types of end users in different situations in different offices have to tell us, because they will definitely have something to tell us about the solution. And the more of this we take on board, the better the outcome will become over time. So let's start with the discovery phase. Scope. What is a scope? So the idea of the scope is to gain a true understanding of our problem statement. So we start off by looking at the assumptions, what assumptions we have about our users, what are their true pain points with the existing solutions. In a lot of cases, it's going to be user experience, it's going to be lack of mobile friendliness, and so on. So these are the kind of pain points we need to note down. And what are our assumptions about those pain points? Because a lot of clients I've spoken to, their assumption about the pain point is that the maintenance window is due soon, and we got to upgrade before the maintenance. We got to embark on this digital transformation before the maintenance contract runs out. But actually, that's not empathy. That's not helpful for the user. That won't help the eventual solution. That's a very narrow mindset. So we need to find out what the real pain points are. And do we really understand the user's role and how they interact with the solution today? Or are they just kind of tagging along, as I said, with the whole idea that in GUI you have one entry point for many people of many different roles, and they kind of just need to find out where they need to go. Do we understand their role and what they need end to end? And so the process expert will help you, but also where the end user will help you even more. And ultimately, how how does the problem, or how does solving this problem benefit our stakeholders? So there's no point in embarking on design thinking for an activity that's used once every 6 months. You know, if it's something to do with period end closing, and you know, it's used maybe once every 6 months, and maybe it's not a nice application, but it's used so rarely that people just get through it. You know, the stakeholder is going to say that, well, that's a huge investment of time and energy for something that's not going to bring much value. So we really need to focus our efforts on these high touch scenarios that really are day to day or week to week, rather than these seldomly used scenarios, I would say. Okay, for synthesize, we're focusing on who do we solve the problem for. So once we do our scope, define our problem statement, and define our pain points, we need to organize that data into structured outputs and categories so we know in which area the pain points lie. So they could be all related to performance, they could be all related to user experience, they could be all related to mobile. Either way, we need to make some meaning out of the data. And then we need to filter off-topic discussions or features which are part of applications. Because if we're focusing on homepage design, which I do suggest you do, obviously we just want to find out for that user's role, what are the type of things they need to do, and which KPIs or which graphs or which reports on that homepage are going to assist them getting that done. We're not worried about the details of the applications themselves at this stage. We're only worried about what they need, because if you look in the Fiori apps library, you will see, oh, we have 2,000 apps. The next question is, how on earth do we start? Which ones do we select first? Do we go by role? Do we go by a usage pattern from ECC? No, the best way actually is to go by the user guiding you in terms of their role, and tell you what they need. Okay, they see, oh, there's create purchase order. There's whatever, I need that. I probably need this. And let them guide you, let them help you design. And if you let them know what the Launchpad can do in terms of notifications, in terms of searching, in terms of KPIs, they will guide you on these features. They will let you know, oh, a chatbot to do this would be very helpful, and there's a use case for you. You don't need a discussion for 10 hours on a use case. The end user will sometimes help you a lot. And then really defining a problem statement focused on the end user and their role. So at this point, you know, we defined a problem statement in the previous scope exercise, but now we need to reframe that problem statement. We need to come back, have a look at it again, based on our categories, based on our structured outputs, based on the refinement of data, and see if that problem statement is still reflective of what we thought it would be. I often see, as I said, I start off the scope exercise, talk to the project stakeholders. They tell me the problem statement is digital transformation, maintenance windows. We need to get this done in a year. But then once we go through the actual problems with the system, we find very quickly the problem statement is more, oh, we want to build a mobile friendly solution which can solve our existing users' issues and better prepare them for the future. And again, these are statements that are focused on the end user's role, rather than big statements that don't really mean anything to them. So why do we do this as a group? Why do we need a group for design thinking? Well, we need to gain a comprehensive understanding for business roles from a technical and a process perspective. And we need to understand diverse use cases and experiences of different people in the organization, because that's the only way in which we can actually know if what we're designing meets as many needs as possible, that we're not going to deploy a solution and get a whole load of negative feedback. I was on a training course yesterday that said anytime you get negative feedback, you basically have the same response as a lizard. You can't listen to it, you can't engage with it, you just ignore it usually. So we don't want to end up in a situation where the users are overwhelmingly negative towards our solution. This is why we go through this, is we want people to feel like they were involved as part of the design phase, and they would be more likely to use the solution just on that basis. Let's have a look at the design phase. Not too many slides left, so don't worry if I'm going slightly over time. In this phase, the first step is to ideate, to generate as many ideas as possible, to ask questions. Okay, so when we identify our pain points, how can we solve those pain points depending on what they are? What features of the solution assist with those pain points? If for example, it's a chatbot, could we use a chatbot to help me with part of this process? Could I ask the chatbot to book me a leave request? Could I ask a chatbot for frequently asked questions? Could I, you know, these kind of things. If they're asking these kind of questions, there's a use case for a solution feature. Okay. Obviously, using different brainstorming methods to generate ideas, but what I like to see is a generation of wild ideas. I don't like, you know, the output to just be, oh, here's the homepage design and we're finished. I'd like to see some wild ideas. Some, you know, is there anything in machine learning which can help me? Is there anything in, let's say, situation handling which I could take advantage of? And that's why the Fiori design expert, as part of the team, kind of comes in with the technical expert and assesses the feasibility of these requests. And if it is the case where, you know, someone asks for a chatbot that can do X, then they can go off and review that and see if that can be provided, if that provides enough value for the business in general, or this is a one-off request for it. So this will help us drive use cases for the activation of advanced features. And a lot of our clients either don't activate the advanced features on the Fiori Launchpad because they don't think they need them, or they activate them, like you saw this at the start, the example of the SAP Fiori search, where it has every single search connector, and really it's providing no to limited benefit to the end user, because now when they try to use it, it's slow and it gives them too much data back, and it's not helpful. Okay, so this is why we do this. And then once we have come up with a few ideas, we rate and we choose the best ideas to take forward to the next stage as a group together. So the persona is the next step. This is probably the most important aspect of this exercise. Map a made-up user based on our assumptions is what a persona is, the definition. So we need to think, what are the salient personality traits of the users of our system? Okay, so what are the main things that apply to these users? Are they clumsy? Are they experts? Are they always on their mobiles? Okay, what are these personality traits? What is the persona? What is their goal? What is their mission? What is their task? What do they want to accomplish in the end? We need to focus, obviously, our design around that. And what do they like and what do they dislike? What are they really frustrated about today? What would their likes be? Is it, again, going back to the mobile friendliness? Is it going back to ease of use and getting my task done quickly? That will help us drive our eventual design. So this is an example. Mr. ASAP, he's 48 years old. He was born in 1972, which is when SAP was founded. He's a PhD. His role is a restaurant designer. He's an expert at that. His goal is to enjoy his evening, to stay in touch with his friends, to get served quickly. None of this he can do right now, of course. His task is to order a meal, to pay for the meal, and to be served the meal. So you can think about these tasks as they map to a business process or to a role. These might be tiles on a Fiori Launchpad: order meal, pay for meal, serve meal. And these tiles might apply to different roles. And you see here, get served quickly. So maybe the waiter needs the serve app somewhere very prominent to meet this goal. Just stay in touch with my friends. Well, that's maybe not something that we can help with. And to enjoy our evening, well, then if we make this process as seamless and simple as possible, the enjoyment will go up. So we can relate these goals to tasks and see how we solve that. The trigger, what triggers someone to go to a restaurant? Hunger, usually. Okay, so for our users, it might be that they need to create a leave request, or they want to go on holiday, or they want to check their payslip. Those can be triggers. The frequency of that trigger. Hunger is a daily occurrence, unfortunately. So we have to, this is a very high touch scenario. But again, you might see a scenario that's monthly or even hourly if it's something really critical, and then we need to be extremely careful of how we're designing the role. What do they like? Fancy food and drinks, trying new food, catching up with friends again. We can relate these to our actual design. Bad customer service is a frustration, being late and wasting time. So these could be things that relate to the current solution that they're interacting with. What do they not like about that solution? So try to map that, try insofar as possible to say, what is our solution, or what is our design going to do with these frustrations? Okay, how are we going to fix these? And then their environments. What does the environment look like? For someone who wants to go to a restaurant, it might be time pressure and bad food. At home, maybe it's a lot of microwave dinners and they just want to eat something nice. So triggers for a real world scenario might be a noisy office environment, So then we'd have to think about that. Okay, they're in a noisy office. Is a chatbot going to help them if it's speaking to them? Will they even be able to hear it? An example I had was, as I wrote in the blog, where a customer was designing a solution, a Fiori Launchpad, for people who worked in a kind of a factory floor. And then these people actually wore gloves. And we all know how iPads and gloves go together. And the answer is they don't really work that well if you're wearing certain types of gloves. So we had to really rethink that solution in terms of what KPIs can we put directly on that user's homepage, so they don't even need to maybe access the apps. They can just see the information they need quickly. And then if they do need to take time to update something, then they can obviously remove the gloves. So this is the kind of thinking that goes in once you understand the environment, the frustrations, and the triggers that we can have, and design our solution a lot better, rather than rolling out something completely unsuitable. And then we only find out during user acceptance testing when the project is almost live. We want to find out now during the discovery phase. So the prototype, the idea is to go from dream to reality. This is, again, in the same meeting, when we were running design thinking workshops, within 2 to 3 hours, we have a prototype in place. So we create a tangible understanding of the idea. We test the idea in the real world. Okay, so obviously anything, once we go into the real world, people can see what they were talking about and decide, okay, this makes no sense, so this is amazing. And the idea is to generate a common understanding for our users between each other of what we're aiming for. So why do we actually make paper prototypes? We have all this technology. Why do we use paper? Why do we draw? Well, the idea is we're involving end users, we're involving business process experts. They may not have that level of knowledge to work with a prototyping tool, even no matter how simple that tool is. They may be an expert in their field, but not an expert at design. So we use paper. Anyone can contribute to a paper design. And the really key thing is people are not afraid to try something on paper. They're not afraid to, quote unquote, break something or to come up with a crazy idea, because it's just a case of throwing the paper away. Whereas once the solution is live, people are really hesitant to then make changes to it, because in that case, it is expensive to make those changes. So that's why we start with paper for our prototyping. And I'm just here showing you some examples of what I've been talking about, in terms of, these are taken from real customer workshops, obviously with all the relevant data omitted, but just showing you, this is not just theory. We have been actively pursuing this with our customers for the past number of years. And some of the quotes we got was, this has restored my faith in SAP as a company that cares about design and cares about the best outcome for our users. And that was a direct quote from a customer. Another developer told us that, I'm just going to take pictures of this and I'm going to show this to my boss, and I'm going to show him how I designed the solution from the ground up. So we're just doing this as part of a 2-day, 3-day workshop for our customers, and within a 2-hour meeting, from discussing the process, we actually output everything I've been talking about here in terms of scope, ideate, synthesize, personas, and a prototype. And this is another set of examples of, for the pain points for different processes, the personas, how they end up, and the final prototype. And you can see, again, these examples are more application based, but we default, if the customer has no idea of what application they want, we default to the Fiori Launchpad homepage designing for a role and how they actually access the system. So there's a differentiation to be made between a low and a high fidelity prototype. So a low fidelity prototype really is just your clickable dummy. So it could be any kind of tool. It could be anything. This here is using, say, Mural, this one. So we were able to get everyone into the one space, and they were able to put post-its on the screen, and then everyone was able to structure those post-its for what they thought the user role would be. And even the end user was there, and they were able to move things around, and they were able to tell us what KPIs they needed. Okay, they needed something for recruiting approvals, they needed something to tell me how many meetings I need to conduct, and so on. And they really like the idea of notifications coming in as they do their tasks, so we included that as well. But this is by no means a final design. This is just something to get it on paper so people can interact with it. And in the real world, we'd obviously have used a whiteboard for this with post-its, but we couldn't So we took that design, and then we need to go off and build what's known as a high fidelity prototype. So how do we do that? In the past, we would have used tools like SAP Build, but really now we're using the Fiori design stencils, and we can plug these into our prototyping tool of choice, and we can really design this solution to look and feel like a Fiori app without any of the complex underlying functionality. So if a key takeaway, I suggest you do go off and check out the Fiori design stencils. You can simply just Google Fiori design stencils and you will find this, and you can just plug them into your prototyping tool of choice and really get started immediately. And the output is a what's known as a high fidelity prototype. So high fidelity now is where the user can actually click, can play around. It looks and feels like a real system. So this is not just made up. We went from this. We first went from paper like this to something like Mural, and then we took the Mural and we went to something like this, all within 2 to 3 hour meeting. This is just using the SAP Cloud Platform portal service and using the Launchpad capability there to come up with a design, a final design. So you can see the output of design thinking is really very tangible, okay, and it doesn't take all that long to do it either. And if we do this ahead of our, let's say, implementation of SAP S/4HANA, if we have all these roles that he's thought about and planned, then the implementation task becomes a lot simpler. We can just hand these kind of things to our basis colleagues and say, this is the way we designed it, please implement it according to this. And then the amount of change requests we have for the role will dramatically reduce. And then again, we always simulate using the mobile view, because that's very important for our users today. And our prototyping tools can easily allow us to have a look on a mobile view. And then the final step, and I am done now, so apologies for the time, is to validate the prototype and to iterate the design. So it's not a case that you wait for UAT to validate and iterate. You do this during the design phase. Okay, so once you have even this or even this, you go back to the users and say, this is what we designed. What do you think? Is this what you imagined it would look like? Or is there something wrong? And usually it will tell you, oh, I don't know why you put that tile there. I never would use that. Maybe move this one up here and I need a KPI there. And you make those changes, validate again, and keep it going until the requests are fizzling out or non-existent. And then you will have a much, much better design overall. Okay, so that's it for that session. I hope that was useful. Is there any questions or comments or feedback at this stage that you'd like to share? Please feel free.
I'm trying to find a way how to unmute everyone.
Okay, maybe is there any questions in the chat? If you want to type in the chat, I can have a look there.
No questions. So we just nicely been looking to your presentation and just waited for the time of the questions. So
no worries.
Is anyone from our participants would like to ask Adam for a question? So I would like to ask actually first before.
Yes, please.
How frequently have you seen greenfield implementation potential customers looking into this topic? So I could understand somebody who run legacy, we call it legacy SAP ECC applications. They would like to see something new. But if you're in the greenfield implementation and you never seen the old SAP desktop GUI, have you seen it in your experience? Because design thinking is the methodology that's coming to SAP from non-SAP. So it's used by SAP Labs to develop SAP-owned Fiori apps. But once you're coming to the greenfield implementation, what is your experience with them?
That's a fantastic question, because as you said, our developers use this process internally to build the SAP Fiori apps, and that's why they are so focused on the user's role. But the last mile of the journey to get even to that wonderful user experience is left to the customers implementing the system. Okay, so if you just implement out of the box and okay, I'm just going to use what I get, this slide tree here is what you end up with. Okay, this is how the Fiori Launchpad actually ends up looking. and this doesn't help any end user. So for what I've seen for a lot of greenfield customers is this kind of mistake of assuming that this is we're done. Okay, we did our so-called design. We just activated Fiori and now it works and everyone's happy. But the reality of the situation is that is not true. If this is where it ends up, well then the users complain. They don't adopt the solution. If they still have access to GUI, they go back and use GUI because at least they knew where things were. And performance is a very much a disaster ground with this kind of design. So for a lot of customers, we see this being the last hurdle and one which they fall over. They get everything else done in terms of business process, and then this kind of last step of the Fiori design and how we design for Fiori is just missed. But as you said, our developers build these apps according to best practices. That you click on any of these apps, and the app looks wonderful and behaves very well. It's just now a step of actually, how do we put this information together in a good way so that the end user is greeted with something like this rather than greeted with something like that. Okay, so it's something that I feel a trick has been missed somewhere along the way, and we need to get the message out there.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the call would like to ask any of the questions? So as the final note from me, I run design thinking course in Victoria Uni in Sydney for a group of maybe 60 students per trimester, and we utilize Build. So the commissioner of Build been perceived very from the interesting point. They just learn how to use this field and utilize all the design thinking methodology throughout all 5 phases, and SAP decided to decommission it. So I understand that SAP Fiori design stencil, and we also had a presentation from SAP about SAP Fiori tools and Fiori elements. And still, it's either just the design or something which the logic. So it's no tool in between. So I heard from the ground that people will really miss Build when you could easily create a prototype, upload to Web IDE, and run it. I ran something like this for one of my clients. We created some application more or less working low fidelity prototype with some of the logic within a day, showed, and it was really perceived very well. So I'm not sure if you're the right person in SAP, but conveying some message. We need some tool like SAP Build. So it's not just the design stencil, but it's also some of the basic logic, even basic database behind the scenes to show something to our clients.
I completely understand, and personal feeling would be I'd be part of Save the Build campaign. I quite liked using SAP Build for design. I can understand some of the reasons why we've moved away and why we've moved towards the design stencils to give that greater flexibility for the designers to use their tool of choice rather than coming along and here's yet another licensed software to buy from SAP Build. But I do miss it. It did have a lot of features, that interaction with Web IDE and being able to go from that prototype to the design and the development and the deployment in very quick few steps was the goal. And also that user research part of Build, which some people may not be familiar with, was something exceptional as well, where we could actually send this kind of screen to the user and ask them to leave feedback directly in the tool. Now we're back to the whole, let's have a meeting, let's discuss, let's document the feedback. People have to dedicate time to come together and do this. So there are a couple of features that were quite good. And it is something, again, I don't have influence personally over what tools and what direction we go, but it's something that we definitely mention internally and what are we doing, and we definitely relay the feedback of what we'd like to see in the roadmap, and we do like to see comprehensive tools like that. So I would say let's keep fingers crossed and let's see what's coming in the future in terms of our bridging the gap with design and deploy. Okay.
Thank you.
If there's any any further questions, feel free to reach out to me on my email address. It's in the slide deck here, and I'm sure these will be provided to you anyway. So thank you very much.
And if you'll be able to send your presentation, I will populate to participants as well.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. And I would like to provide the stage to Thomas Reiss. Thomas, would you like please to share your screen and start your presentation?
Certainly.
Maybe some people just rejoined us. If you could just provide a few words about yourself, it will be nice. And you don't worry about the time. So we're still on track. I put some contingency in everyone's time frame. So stage to you. I would like just to confirm with everyone if you could see Thomas' screen.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
I'm putting myself on mute, and it's your stage. Welcome.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yeah. So again, my name's Tom Reiss, product manager for Fiori. Been in the UX team now the last 6 years. Been actually at SAP since '93. Always working on sort of innovation topics in development. In fact, different leadership roles over the years, and like I said, the last 6 years now in the design, or now we call it SAP User Experience Organization, product manager for Fiori, driving Fiori adoption within our products, but of course also understanding what the customers need and providing, helping to prioritize requirements towards our development, and of course help roll out the roadmap and what we've been delivering. So this is exactly the focus today, what we've been delivering. And the good news is with S/4HANA On-Premise 2020, we have a whole load of new innovations of Fiori 3. And that's what I want to give you a highlight, a brief summary of the innovations today. I also have a little bit of an outlook about what's planned, so the usual legal disclaimer, because of course our plans can change with time. So the agenda today, very brief introduction, and then the primary part are the recent innovations that we have today, with a particular focus on the spaces. So this is actually a nice segue to what we heard just now, how to define home pages, central entry point for multiple backend systems, situation handling and mobile. And then, like I said, I'll give you a brief outlook. If you want more information, do have a look at the SAP Fiori roadmap. We update it once a quarter. This last update is from October, so pretty much the slides I'm showing you now are a subset of the very long presentation that we have here available to you publicly. So let's get going with an introduction. And just as a recap, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Fiori, so I won't spend too long on this. Of course, we have a design system for the whole of SAP, because Fiori applies to all of our products with different technologies. So we have a whole design system for that. Of course, obviously we have technologies and tools for you to build, and of course our own developers to build Fiori, and of course we have the portfolio of apps. And I don't know if you might not have seen this visualization. This is a nice way of sort of summarizing the scope, if you like. So basically the SAP design system, of course, based on our corporate values. One in particular to mention is inclusion, so supporting people with visual impairments, so the topic of accessibility, for example. We've had these design principles now for the last 6 or 7 years, in fact, with Fiori right from the beginning. So it's role-based, it's adaptive and responsive, so it depends on the device you're working with. It'll support the devices, tablet, desktop, mobile. Obviously, simplicity is important. Coherency across many applications, so it all looks the same, has the same look and feel. You feel comfortable using more than one application because it seems to all belong to one family. And obviously, delightfulness is very important these days. Practices, of course, a design system defined practices like having a design mindset, defining a persona, doing the end user research. So exactly what we just heard about just now. And we also have established design-led development within the organization. So we have a whole set of practices defined, and then we have the actual Fiori design languages, and again here plural, so you can see this really is a very big system that we have, which defines the look and feel, defines the controls of floor plans, the common functions like search and notifications, for example, and also guidelines and stencils. So what we've just heard about, also the stencils for designing and doing your mock-ups and so on. And here we have 3 main technology areas. Of course, a very big one is obviously the web, so HTML browser-based UIs. We also have Fiori for native mobile, so iOS and Android. And in fact, we've also got a conversational user experience. So we have 3, if you like, design languages, in fact 4, because we have the 2 flavors for mobile. And if we look here at the web side of things, we have SAP UI5 as our reference framework, JavaScript HTML5 framework for efficiently building apps. We have the UI5 web components coming out now for supporting, if you like, legacy code or products that have been developed, let's say with Angular, React. If you already have code that way, you can start using web components to get closer to the Fiori design. Obviously HTML, CSS based. We of course have classic UIs also in the S4 system, for example. And then a very efficient way of building apps, of course, is Fiori Elements. And what's come out recently is the Business Application Studio as an integrated development environment in the cloud, and SAP Fiori Tools, which help you build elements. And I'll come to that a little bit later as well. And of course, we have screen personas also to help you adapt and simplify the classic UIs. And as we saw, the Launchpad, the entry point we've just been looking at, has so far always been available via the SAP Fiori front-end server, and now new, and this is what I'll come to as well, is the Cloud Platform Launchpad service, which also provides the user experience. In mobile, of course, we have the iOS SDK and the Android SDK. So these are, if you like, the 2 languages or the 2 flavors of the mobile language. We have the mobile development kits. You can code once and deploy them twice into the iOS and Android. And what's planned is, in fact, SAP Mobile Start, which is a kind of native mobile launchpad for launching all the mobile apps that you want to use, be they native apps or also the web-based apps. So that's something that's also planned for next year. And then, of course, conversational user experience. We started out with Copilot. It's being re-engineered using conversational AI, and we expect next year then first new bots to appear in S/4HANA. And of course, we have, looking at the applications, of course, the various applications providing the Fiori user experience. So that kind of puts things in context. And I'm going to be talking to you about the new deliveries that we've just recently provided with S/4HANA 2020. And let's start with the spaces. So until now, what we've had in the Launchpad is one home page with groups. So here, if you look at a page, or if you expanded it, you'd have a whole load of groups of tiles. And basically, that's the way of structuring the home page, is simply to put the tiles into groups, as we saw just now. What's important is don't put all your applications on the home page. So only put those that you use frequently or that are particularly important to you. You can access all the other applications, so the other ones that are not on the page, either using search or using the home navigation or using the app finder. So you can, of course, still access them. It's just that they're not directly on the home page. So what we got as feedback, of course, is that, in fact, in quite a few cases, even if you're only putting the main ones on your pages, it's still not that flexible regarding options for structuring the page. So we've mitigated this by introducing the spaces concept. So basically here, you have far more flexibility in defining the layout. So you can have one or more spaces, and each space itself can have one or more pages. So here's an example with 3 pages. And then a page looks similar to before. So you have basically tiles on the pages, which can be grouped into sections. So whereas before they were groups, now they're called sections. And as a result, you have, of course, far more flexibility. And what we have as a recommendation is that the spaces should reflect more or less a role that a user has. So basically, one space for each role. So here, in this case, the user has 4 roles. So there's billing specialist, also working as an internal sales rep, happens to also be a sales manager. So, doing both aspects, and also shipping specialists who can therefore also do some deliveries and so on. The overall benefit, of course, is it gives users better access to the apps that they need to use. What's also new is that we provide a WYSIWYG editor for admins to actually do the layout, define the layout for each of these spaces, and I'll show you in a demo in a moment. And so overall, for end users, it just makes the experience better to use. And also in the cloud in particular, you get a stable layout. So even if you add a new role, the list of groups isn't going to change. So this gives you more opportunity to do, if you like, the design thinking that we just heard about, to define the page. And in fact, we also recommend giving your users an empty space, like favorites, for example, that is then the start page, so to speak, which they can completely personalize for themselves. So a space with one empty page, which users can then personalize completely to add their favorites. So just to summarize again, the more flexibility. So before we had, with the single home page, we just had the 1 degree of flexibility, the multiple groups on one page. Now we have equivalently multiple sections on one page, but then also the multiple pages within a space, and then the multiple spaces. So we have 3 degrees now rather than the 1. And again, we still recommend to only put the most important and frequently used ones on these pages. You can still find all the apps using search and so on. So let's, having talked a lot about it, let's actually have a look at it in the system. So I will just switch my share to the, just stop sharing and share a different screen now. And I just need to find it. I think it's this one here. Yep. So this is now, I'm logged on as a purchaser here. And in fact, I have 3 roles. So I have a role to maintain master data, you can see here, also to do more strategic buying, and as an operational purchaser. And here's, to start with, we see an example of a space that only has the 1 page. So this is the business partner space here with, I can maintain business partner applications. I can scroll down, so there's not that much on the page. You can see, so it's quite simple. Then here's an example where I have a space with multiple pages. If I click here, I go to the initial page, if you like, of this space, so this quick access area. But I can, of course, also choose other pages. So let's choose here Purchasing Analytics, for example. You can also go directly to a page within a space. You don't always have to first click on the space. So I can go here, for example, to have a look at purchasing directly. And here you see what you'd expect: the purchase requisition processing, the purchase order processing. So it's kind of like a menu, if you like, spread across pages and spaces. And like I said, of course, we would advise you actually to give your users also favorites, empty page that they can then personalize. Talking of personalizing, let's have a look at that. So if I'm on this, I can immediately just move or rearrange tiles directly, but I can also add new sections and add tiles to them using basically the edit current page. And so here you see I can add a section, for example, new section, and then add tiles to that. This is also using the App Finder. And then I have access, in fact, to all the tiles. And in fact, this demo user has a whole load of additional roles, so that's why you see also finance stuff, simply because it's a demo system. So, and then I can simply add the various applications here. I won't do that now, but that's a very simple way of personalizing, pretty much like before, personalizing your pages. I'll just delete the new section, close it. What's also important, of course, is that your users might be used to using the old homepage, and you don't want to do a big bang and suddenly confront them with a new one. So what we do offer is a way of having a sort of gradual, phased-in approach. Using settings, basically as an admin, you can set up the system so that users themselves can switch between this new spaces and the old homepage. So if I remove the marker here, I would go back to the old homepage for my user. If I then switch on spaces again, I go back into the spaces. So that way, users who've maybe personalized or got used to using their homepage can use the homepage, go back to the homepage if they want. They can then switch on the spaces, get comfortable with spaces, perhaps make some changes there, and still always switch back to the old homepage. And then that way, of course, you can introduce it gradually, maybe team by team or area by area. So maybe you start with procurement and you have your procurement users using spaces and the others still using the old homepage. Then once the procurement users feel happy, they could, of course, share the good news with the other colleagues, and then they would be perhaps less skeptical about changing the way of working, and then step by step everyone can move to the new spaces approach. What I've been showing so far is the end user view. I did mention that we have also a WYSIWYG editor for admins, so let me show you that. So this here, I'm now logged on as an administrator, and I'm in the new, we have two new apps. One of them is called Manage Spaces. So this is the Manage Spaces app, and here you see I've got the this purchasing space, so the same pages we saw before. So here we see the 4 pages. What you can do here very easily, of course, is edit this, and you see the list of all possible pages here. You can here just drag and drop to change the order, so that's very simple. And let's now go into the operational purchasing page, for example. I'm not saving it. And there I see the layout. So I am actually an admin because I have this edit button here. I can edit the layout, and then you have a similar UI for the person as you have with personalization, where you can add sections and so on. And you see here then a list of all the available apps that are available to you. And if I add a section, I can either drag and drop apps over here into this, or I can also, you can do a mass selection. So you could have, say, these various document displays, for example, and then simply add here, and then you can choose which sections you want to add them to. Let's say add them to demo, and then they're all in there. So a very simple way of defining the pages and spaces. So I won't actually make those changes for an admin as well. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation. So that was a demo of spaces and pages. So what's important to note is all our future innovations are going to be coming through spaces on the Launchpad. So spaces really are the future. In cloud, we're actually planning to deprecate the old homepage release, the homepage approach. We'll give customers at least 2 releases advance notice. So first of all, we're collecting feedback to see how customers are getting used to it, how users are accepting it. Do we need to, add additional features perhaps? And then at least 2 releases, that'd be half a year in advance. We would then inform customers about it being deprecated. So the recommendation that we have for you is, of course, if you have the system available, start using spaces and pages, get acquainted with it, and then step by step give it to your teams so they can switch between the old homepage and the new spaces, and then gradually adopt it. And at the end, I'll give you a bit of an outlook what's planned in the future. So I've mentioned the tools, I showed them. So, in the past we had this first generation of tools, the mass maintenance tool in the back end and the Fiori Launchpad designer in the front end. These are now been replaced by the second generation, which are better tooling. So we have the Launchpad app manager for these technical catalogs. The Launchpad content manager is the one that you would typically use to create your business catalogs and define the business roles for the users when you want to go live. And then you have the managed Launchpad spaces and pages for actually defining the spaces and pages. So these are the 2 apps that we just had a look at briefly. So this experience that I've been showing you, this new spaces and pages, is what we call, from a design perspective, is the SAP Fiori Launchpad user experience. And it's provided technically now by 2 platforms. So what I showed you actually was a demo of it running on the SAP Fiori front-end server with an S/4HANA system, so ABAP based. But now, since the beginning of September, we also provide the SAP Cloud Platform Launchpad service, which runs on the SAP Cloud Platform Cloud Foundry, and that also provides spaces and pages. This is a first release. So it hasn't got all the same features as the ABAP version, but we do have a roadmap, of course, to increasingly make it more powerful and provide additional features, obviously with a focus on a central entry point. So this is exactly the topic, the next topic I want to talk about, this central entry point. So especially larger customers have often come to us asking for one entry point to access their multiple systems. They might have many S/4HANA systems even, or business suite systems, also perhaps other cloud products from SAP. And rather than having different logon pages, different start pages, they want to give their users one page, one entry point to access all the applications that they use. And that is exactly the goal that we have with the Fiori 3 design, and part of the Intelligent Enterprise vision is to provide users this central entry point in the cloud for accessing SAP products, and also central services, like, for example, a central inbox across all the products, a central place for notifications, and obviously single sign-on. And so this is provided, will be provided partly. Of course, we're also on a journey to get there, by the Launchpad running on the SAP Cloud Platform. So this Cloud Platform Launchpad service provides integration to multiple backends. And so what we have is integration with S/4HANA, integration with Business Suite manually, integration also with other solutions, which I'll come to in a moment. And also you can manually also integrate third-party products. Now, of course, you don't want to manually integrate every single individual app. You want to have some kind of content federation, ideally, at least from SAP. And this is what we now offer with S/4HANA 2020. In fact, technically, it's the Fiori Frontend Server 2020 for S/4HANA. That's actually the product that provides the content federation to the central Launchpad. So if you define spaces and pages here on your S/4HANA system, then you can basically press a button and they will be copied up here. And from then on, users simply access the system using the cloud Launchpad rather than the local one. Business Suite at the moment, we don't have that content federation, so you can do it manually, individual apps, but we do actually have it on the roadmap to provide also this content federation for the Frontend Server 6. For SAP solutions, other solutions in the cloud and on-premise, we do also have support for, at the moment, the SAP Enterprise Portal, the on-premise portal has content federation, and we also have content federation for any Fiori apps that you've built or that SAP has built running on the cloud platform, Cloud Foundry. So that also can be automatically federated. And again, third-party products is something obviously for manual integration. And so let's have a look what I mean with this federation. So basically you have the Launchpad here running in the SAP Cloud Platform. It can use, of course, related central services, so theme designer for changing the look. Planned, at the moment, looks like Q1 next year, is the central inbox, at least for new customers. We have to be careful there with the user ID mapping, so at least to start with, for new customers, we can use that. Also, notifications is planned, I think, in fact, even later this year. And of course, security single sign-on, obviously available today. And we have this content federation, this integration of the content. This could be local, if you like. So basically applications built on the SAP Cloud Platform, Cloud Foundry, or of course also provided by SAP systems. And obviously this needs to be provided by each of the various products. So that's why we have a roadmap there for these products to integrate. And it starts with S/4HANA on-premise 2020, or in fact also 1809, 99 using the Frontend Server 2020. And like I mentioned, also SAP Enterprise Portal. And looking at this just at one level more detail. So basically in S/4HANA, you continue to have the Frontend Server running in your S/4HANA system. So this is why you have the Frontend Server 2020 for S/4HANA. This, of course, could be used as a local entry point normally, but basically by replicating the content model, so exposing the spaces and pages per role that have been defined in the front-end server for S/4HANA. That is exposed to the central Launchpad, and from then on the user can then access the system directly using the central Launchpad and no longer access it using the local entry point. Okay, so that was a brief summary of the central entry point. Let's have a look now at situation handling. I've got to be careful about time as well, of course. So situation handling is a powerful way of bringing intelligence to the user, to the system. And the basic idea behind it is to deal with situations that don't actually happen that often. So if you have, of course, regular things happening, like a lorry or a truck arriving with a delivery, hopefully that's not an exception, that's a normal thing. And so you probably have a work list or something like that to process those. But a situation, a business situation in this sense here is something that's not so usual or not so common. And so you wouldn't normally be checking a list every day to see if there's anything there. So you would expect a proactive notification that the situation is there, and then an explanation, and then also ideally some guidance how to deal with it. And that is exactly what we do with the situation handling. So here we have an example via an object page. And rather than showing you the slide, I'll just go straight to the demo, which is in fact a recording. It's the same one that you can find on YouTube. And let me just show you that one. I need to share the right slide for that. I'll stop sharing and then share the demo. Okay, so basically I'm also here a purchaser, and I've got a situation where a supplier who has actually confirmed a delivery has now said, no, I can't, so I can't actually deliver the full amount after all. So here I go into my notifications, and I see here I've got this notification pending confirmation of quantity deficit in the supplier's delivery. And based on this confirmation from the supplier, we're able to deliver everything. So clicking on the notification takes me directly now to this view of purchase order item, the situation view, where I see a description of the situation. And I also have then an overview of the confirmation. There's 50 pieces are missing, if you like, or not going to be delivered. They are due in 7 days. So I need to find an alternative. I have here the supplier contact data, and I have the system proposes alternative suppliers where I can order the material. I can just choose one of these, let's say the cheapest one, and simply create purchase order. And then I've actually dealt with the situation. So that, of course, let me just pause here, is very, very powerful, because the user has not only the explanation, but also the possible actions right at their fingertips, rather than having to look through the system to find out what the situation is and what the alternatives are. You have it all in one place. And this shows here, this is a object page pattern that we've introduced here, so you can actually switch to the normal regular view. So if you hide the details of the situation, you get to the normal object page view of the purchase order item. So if you need to look at the other information, or you can always switch back to look at the details. But this means if you're looking at a purchase order in general that has an issue, then you have this as well. So you don't have to always go by notifications. You would also see that this indicator here showing that there's a situation involved. All right, so let's that was a brief overview of the situation approach that we have now available with S/4HANA 2020, some of the innovations there. There's also, let me just go back to the presentation. We also have a new innovation in the situation handling called message-based situation handling. So we're getting closer to the full-blown situation page that we're planning to provide. So this is for long-running batch jobs, this message-based situation handling, like a Dunning run, for example, which runs overnight. And of course, hopefully there are never errors, but occasionally errors, of course, can happen. And so rather than a user always having to check the log to see if there are any errors, now you get proactively notified and you have actions proposed. So here you see here the related actions. So if there's an error message, you get as user related actions shown to you. And this is something that customers can configure entirely themselves. So they can configure for each of the possible error messages what related actions do they want to give to their users to actually deal with this particular exception. So here you see an example then of the kind of situation page for this particular message-based situation handling. Okay, so that was a way of surfacing intelligence. I mentioned, we've of course also been providing tools for you to develop your own apps. So let's have a look at what's new there. And Fiori Elements, of course, has been around now for a while. We continue to invest in that. It's really cornerstone of our effort to make Fiori apps easy to develop. And what's very important, and of course, Fiori Elements provides these floor plans, these patterns like these lists and these object pages. But what I want to really highlight here is that you get a whole load of features as well that are not necessarily so obvious. So you get, for example, search integration, this whole filtering, this variant manager that you can store variants of the search filters. This you get entirely out of the box without having to do any coding yourself. You also have, the actions here, sorting, personalization, export to Excel, again, without any coding that you have to do yourself. Particularly important, especially for business use cases, is you get accessibility out of the box. So screen reader support, tab support, high contrast support, all this, which typically takes a lot of effort if you're just developing from scratch using JavaScript HTML5. We have internationalization, so translation support. It's of course responsive, mobile compatible, performance optimized. So all these things out of the box with Fiori Elements. Now, that of course already is a lot of advantages, but what we've also done is provided tooling. Before I come to that though, perhaps just of course you can use SAP UI5, do freestyle development. Obviously you have more flexibility, of course, if you do freestyle. SAP UI5 is a very powerful framework, so already there you have a lot more efficiency than if you were just using native HTML5 and JavaScript. But of course, obviously with Fiori Elements, if the use case fits the patterns that we have, you can get much more efficient development. And we do even have extensions in Fiori Elements, so you can even do some additional extensions and still have significant productivity benefits from using Fiori Elements. Now, Fiori Elements, of course, are cool, but what we've realized is that sometimes developing them needs a bit more support. So we've provided tooling for that. So here's just an overview of the main patterns that we have. We have the overview page, which gives you an overview of what needs your attention, basically. And then we have this list report and the object page. And then also this analytical list page where you can filter the list using charts, and also just a work list without the filter, just to-do list. And for these various patterns, if they fit your use case, we provide now also Fiori tools to make it easier for you to build these applications. So we have an application generator, modeler, especially guided development. So it's a kind of wizard style approach. This whole Fiori tools ensures that you have a consistent application structure. Obviously, it gives you step-by-step instructions. You also get code completion if you're doing extensions or adaptations. So that, of course, is very powerful. And overall, it improves your consistency. Important to mention also, it helps with creating annotations. So that's something also that can be very helpful and overall helps with application maintenance. And you can use it either using the Business Application Studio in the cloud, or also if you're working offline on your laptop, for example, you can use Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So that's also very helpful, and we got a lot of great feedback. It became generally available just a month or two ago, so it really is quite new. Of course, we haven't just been working on web development, also mobile development it continues to be important. So, for example, with Fiori for iOS, we've provided additional controls like reporting an end-user issue or a what's new. So if you have a mobile app and you have a new version of it, you can tell the user what's new in this new version. Or we have a signature capture form, which is often needed for mobile devices. Similarly, for Android, we have a whole load of new controls available in the SDK. So filter feedback bar here, or this chart header that you can use to graphically visualize data, and of course other chart formats and so on. Okay, so that was briefly a summary of where we stand. And let me just give you a very brief outlook. Of course, there's a lot more that I could say, but we haven't got that much time. So very briefly, these home pages, the spaces and pages I talked about, all the innovations are coming there. And what we do plan is, for example, different size tiles. So you see here sort of half heights, we call them flat tiles. This is a standard width flat tile, or here down below you have a double width flat tile, so that's an additional option. We're also, of course, planning to provide also directly links into the, so you have not only tiles but also sections with links. We're investigating, this is a bit further in the future, we're investigating using the horizontal space of the screen to also provide grouping options. So at the moment we just have the sections, vertically aligned, but potentially we could also have horizontal sections. So this is something we're looking at. And also we're looking at introducing cards. So here you see an example here of a card, or even a larger card, or here, a list of the to-dos from my inbox. So these kind of cards is also something we're looking at. At the moment, that from a timing point of view, the tile sizes we expect in the cloud in Q2. So on premise, obviously, that would be then simply next year's release. The cards at the moment would be coming probably later on the roadmap. So that's what's quick look at the future with the spaces and pages. We're also, of course, investing in intelligence. So once we do have cards, we could, of course, surface ranked lists or recommended things to work on first and second and third. Similarly, in applications, explainable AI. Digital assistant is something we're working on. We expect next year to have first bots that you could also use as templates yourself for developing. And business situation handling, again, we're looking at providing a full-blown situation page, for example. And finally, integration, of course, we're continuing on the track there. So I've shown you what we've already got today with the central entry point, but of course the vision we have is that you can actually define your own pages and put tiles or links to each of the individual products that SAP has onto your one page. So at the moment, you can only define the spaces and pages in the S4 system, for example, and send them up. We, of course, want you to be able to define your own pages and spaces then in the Launchpad. That's something for next year. And of course, then going beyond that, obviously, step by step, we're planning to have other SAP products also then integrated. And also, like I mentioned, we want to have the one inbox or the SAP Task Center, so it's now going to be called, also integrated into this central entry point. And that's something that's starting then next year. So finally, here's some links for more information. If you haven't already enrolled and you're interested to learn more about Fiori, I strongly recommend this SAP Fiori overview course. It's a 4-week open SAP course, but 4 weeks actually means each week is about 1 to 2 hours total. So it's certainly a manageable amount of information that gives you a very good overview of designing, of developing, and of deploying Fiori. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and open up to questions.
Hello, everyone. If you would like to speak, you could either raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Yeah, Gary, please.
Yeah, thank you, Adi. Thomas, with regards to your comment about the tile sizes for Fiori apps, that there's some modifications there with regards to the size that you can set. Does that also apply to the category tiles that you can put in Ariba, or are they fixed with regards to their sizing?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, as of today, the tiles are fixed. We have, I mean, I think technically there is actually a possibility to make the tiles slightly smaller, so you can have sort of standard size or slightly smaller tiles. That's already available today. But these sort of flatter tiles and so on, this is something we're planning for the future. So that would be coming next year. At the moment, it's a plan, and I would think that would also apply then for all kinds of tiles, but I'd have to check whether the Ariba tiles have any kind of special development behind them that would restrict it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a question for Tom. When do we expect the message-based situation handling? As in, is it going to be available in the next release, or is it available already in 2020?
It's available with 2020. So basically, all the section I had about recent innovations is all available with S/4HANA 2020.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
And perhaps you can see my screen. Do have a look at this blog post. That, of course, is basically explaining in more detail what I presented to you. And so you can, of course, find out more there as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one quick question here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, with regards to the how powerful the Fiori I don't remember what the new version of the tool which is used for development for
You
the
mean
Fiori.
the Fiori tools or the Business Application Studio?
Yeah. So how powerful is it when compared to the UI5 development? I mean, can most of the things that you can do with UI5, is it available with the new framework? I mean, is the easier one which you can use to develop the user-friendly one?
So definitely. I mean, basically, Fiori elements are built with SAP UI5. So it's simply a simplification layer, if you like, on top of SAP UI5.
Right.
So
okay.
Basically, you have, of course, if you're doing these extensions, you can use everything that you can do in SAP UI5. It just makes it much simpler. And so you can, like I showed in this, maybe I can just go back to that slide. You basically have, you can basically use Fiori elements, which is, like I said, SAP UI5 based. And if some features are missing, you can do some extension development and still, of course, profit. Obviously, there become at some stage there's a point where you're, if you have a completely different kind of use case that doesn't fit to the pattern, then there's no point trying to somehow squeeze it in with extension development. Then, of course, you're better off using freestyle development. SAP UI5 has these smart controls, so there's a lot of also efficiency with SAP UI5. But of course, you still have more effort than with Fiori elements, if the use case fits for Fiori elements. So if you do need a list or you need to look at an object, then obviously the patterns fit. If you have some kind of other use case where these patterns don't fit, then you're obviously better off doing freestyle development than trying to somehow manipulate Fiori elements to fit a completely different use case.
Right. So the decision should be in the beginning, like which approach you're going to go with. Is it Fiori elements, or so you have to decide it beforehand. You can't switch in between, and right. Depending on the complex.
No, you can't really switch in between because, of course, with Fiori elements, you've got the pattern, the template, and you can then add, like I said, with this extension development, you can, of course, add additional parts to it using SAP UI5, of course. But you should, at the beginning, look at the use case and decide, is it going to fit one of these templates that we have with Fiori elements? If yes, then go that way. If no, then do freestyle development. That's basically the advice.
Yep.
Now, I saw there's a question in the chat from Weli Sunako. How does ABAP RAP relate to this? Very good question. And we didn't really have time to show the sort of architecture pictures. Basically, Fiori elements and of course SAP UI5 also, they all use OData services to get access to the backend system. If you want to build OData services on your backend, then if you're in an ABAP environment, then the RAP, the ABAP RESTful programming model, is a very efficient way of building these OData services from scratch if you're building your own business objects and so on. So that's where RAP fits in. If you're actually developing on the cloud, SAP Cloud Platform. Then we have something called CAP, which is the Cloud Application Programming Model, which is a little bit like RAP, only for Java-based development on the cloud platform. And there you can also very efficiently develop the OData services you need also for Fiori elements, for example. So if you simply want to build an application, with a list and looking at objects, for example, you can do that in the cloud very efficiently using CAP and using Fiori elements, or in an S/4HANA or an ABAP-based system using RAP, the ABAP RESTful programming model plus Fiori elements. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Tom.
For the audience, maybe few words, what is SAP ABAP RAP? Just that the rest of the audience will be aware of it. And we have some time, if you have on the fly some architecture diagram and you could share for a minute or so, maybe we could tease it for this meeting or just schedule some other meeting in the future.
Yeah, what I can do is I can show you a slide from this OpenSAP course that just shows that RAP context. Let me just get it out there very briefly. Just got it. Just one. Bear with me. There we go.
Meanwhile, Thomas is looking.
So I've got it. Let me just share now. Oh, actually, I better go into presentation mode, then I share the right screen. There we go. So if I share now, there we go. Oh no, sorry, I need to close this one and then share the other one. Well, I'll just share my desktop, that's perhaps easier. So do you see this screen now, simplified overview, runtime web only?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so this is really very simple. We have the browser with the Launchpad and UI5 and a few elements running, and we access the backend system, OData HTTP, using these OData services in the SAP backend. And basically, mobile also uses OData services for the native mobile apps running then with the SAP Cloud Platform mobile services. And of course, in S/4HANA, you also have these classic UIs that come from the backend that just go via HTTP into the browser. And if we now look at the, I'll just skip this one for the moment here, sorry. Let me go to the, as well, let's go to the development tools. So basically, here we are again, very simple picture. What we have is the Business Application Studio with the Fiori tools for building Fiori elements. And of course, Business Application Studio also for Freestyle, SAP UI5. And here in the back end, you have the RAP and CAP programming models, so for ABAP and for cloud. And both of these leverage the so-called CDS views, the core data services, which you can build on top of HANA database tables. So you have this sort of modeled view of the data. So of a business object, for example, you can have that as one view, like a sales order or a customer. And then using RAP, you can very easily then create the OData services that you need to access the data, or of course using CAP. And then of course you can use the Fiori tools, for example, if you're building Fiori elements on top of these, and then you have a very, very simple development approach. And of course, if we look at the mobile situation, you can also use RAP and CAP for the OData services for the mobile development, either native Android and Xcode, or using the mobile development kit where you develop once and then you can deploy both Android and Xcode. Okay, so that was that.
Last question from Danny.
Yes, thank you, Adi. Hi, Thomas. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. I have a questions about the looks and feel. And then what is the SAP long-term strategy? The end will be like, as we know from the SAP S/4HANA, starting from 15 and then the 17 and 1809, 1909 is 2020. And then some transaction that how we expose to the end user still kind of like mix and match, right? Some that we still use the SAP GUI for HTML, some is using the WebDim Pro, you know, some that probably also using the persona. Some applications like probably, you know, like business application for the retail, we still do not have the Fiori applications on that as well. So will it SAP, the end goal, they will be unified, all of these transactions will be accessed through the kind of like SAP Fiori looks and feel, or they will be never like in that goal pretty much 100%. It will still kind of like a mix and match anyway, you know? So that's my question. What is the SAP long-term goal with the user experience for this?
Okay, so the long-term goal, first of all, like I showed on some of the slides, is of course access the system using the Fiori Launchpad, and so you have at least the same look, you know, the same theme, the Quartz theme for the Fiori apps and the SAP GUI for HTML and the WebDim Pro. So that of course is important. To answer your question, what we're doing is we are increasing, of course, the number of Fiori apps that we have in the system. But of course, especially if you look at S/4HANA on-premise with tens of thousands of transactions, of course, we're going to have transactions with us for a long time. So it's not like we're going to sort of, you know, in a year or two, have everything replaced by completely new Fiori apps. But what we're doing is, two things. We're, of course, gradually increasing the number of Fiori apps that we have, looking at doing the user research, looking at how people are working nowadays. And what we're also doing, we've actually just started now recently a project at SAP, is we're looking at the classic UIs, if you like, the classic technology. How can we bring that also closer to Fiori? So I mean, just one example that we've seen is, you know, if you do a value help, the value help pop-up that comes up in Fiori looks different and reacts differently from the value help that we have in SAP GUI. And so what we've done is some user research to get the best of both worlds, and we're now right now working on a kind of improved value help that we could actually offer for Fiori apps as well as for SAP GUI for HTML and also for WebDim Pro. So it would have the same value help wherever you're working. And that's just one example. We're also looking at other examples, how we can bring, you know, the two worlds better together, so that, you know, on the one hand we increase the number of Fiori apps, but on the other hand we accept simply that we're going to have the transactions and WebDim Pro for quite a while. So let's invest also in making those also closer to Fiori, so that users have a more, you know, coherent experience.
Okay, so and then what is the best approach that we actually inform the customer in terms of with different user experience? I think somehow they pick it up in terms of the responsiveness between these different technology. So what is the best that we actually tell the customer? I mean, this it is as it is, or what is actually SAP can explain to the customer with these things?
Well, I mean, basically, like I mentioned, we're investing in improving the classic UIs, as we call them, you know, to bring them closer to Fiori, and also we're increasing the number of amount of Fiori coverage that we have, you know, increasing more and more Fiori apps. And so, as a result, step by step, we're bringing it all together. And of course, you know, users profit from using the Launchpad because you have the enterprise search integrated, you have the notifications there. So there are a lot of benefits of the Launchpad as well. And that's how it's going forward. I mean, there's no silver bullet that will just suddenly make everything perfect. So, you know, we're going step by step. Obviously, we're looking at where is it most important for users, you know, or which use cases are most important, and then taking it, you know, step by step. And I mean, and in fact, I mean, one interesting thing to share also is, you know, with this user research we've been doing, the SAP GUI transactions are actually very popular with our users. If you know, users who are sitting at the system day by day, entering massive amounts of data, using the keyboard, you know, type, type, copy quickly, actually SAP GUI is a very efficient way of doing that kind of process.
Yes.
And so, you know, the question then is, well, why would we want to necessarily replace it if it's working so well? So
that's
so
exactly
that's why, you know, it's not all bad having the SAP GUI in there. It's we're looking at now making what's good, keeping what's good, but making you know, the differences less, so that we have, like I said, with value help, the same value help everywhere, and also looking at the colors and, you know, various other behavior, that we have a more integrated experience.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Adi.
Welcome.
So on behalf of Sydney, would like really to thank you for this marvelous presentation, and thank you for the audience for a lot of questions. Hopefully with the wrap, and we see it's kind of the new generation of the gateway and something on top of the gateway. Probably we will need to speak offline and think if there is a specific need to schedule some of the presentation about the wrap next year. This is the last event for this year. So we're almost towards the holidays period, end of the year. We actually run out of the time, so I would like to ask the audience if you would like to stay a few more minutes. I will show you something amazing.
So I need to, sorry, Adi, I need to interrupt. I need to step out. So thanks for inviting me, and I wish you all good luck with your Fiori journey. I need to step out now.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And if you could send your presentation as well.
Yeah, I'll send you the presentation. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I will try to share my screen. If you could see. Could you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I will try to present you something that discovered by my team. So I would like to thank to a number of the people who made it possible. It's Suhas, Sarish, and Mani. I'm just trying to put the presentation back. Just in a second. I think I need to use just the right monitor. And we are here. Okay, so we found some nice blog from Masaki Arai. He's the SAP champion based in Tokyo. We discovered a new app that released by SAP called Custom Fields and Logic. So I will speak about motivation, quick presentation, very quick demo, summary, and QA. It will not take more than probably 15 minutes. And that's exactly the time when you could utilize this app and build your custom logic very quick. So the motivation is that in old legacy technologies, in order to add some of the field, we requested work from our developers. So they need to create the append structure, then we need to expose this field to a number of the screens, and so on and so on and so on. SAP created the custom fields and logic app, and this app could almost on the fly create this additional field, which will be visible across multiple SAP reports, forms, business scenarios, or data APIs, the SOAP APIs, BAPIs and IDOCs, and so on and so on and so on. So this is the original blog from Masaki Arai. He is actually on vacation, so he could not join this, and I need to just to represent him. He is in details more or less presented what I tried to say in few words, and this is the link to his original blog. Now I will not take more time to reread it. I will just go and say that once we adding some additional Fiori tile catalogs, this will work. So you need just go to the PFCG, create some role, add some of the Fiori tiles that will look like this, and here we go. We need to plan what we're trying to achieve. let's say that we will plan to add some field to the sales order, either to the item level or to the header level. For specific presentation here, I said let's add some humidity range field to the item. We will say if it's possible to correlate between our sales and the humidity range. For this presentation, we will do it manually, but you could always add some of the IoT sensors that will fulfill the field. You will run the custom Fiori and Logic app once you added some of the tiles. This app will look like this. You will see some of the custom fields which we created, and you could add additional field almost on the fly. We will show you in a second how to do it. Then we need to provide some of the basic properties. This is in which business scenario you will use the field. Here in this specific presentation, it's a sales document item. It represents VBAP relation, if you know what it is. We just call the field, and this will be immediately added to SAP dictionary. So we mentioned that we will use the humidity ranges. Let's say we'll put a code list, and SAP provides a number of the type possibilities with different ways how to represent different fields, like almost everything what you could think about it. So we just add the humidity with 3 ranges. We will see it's almost immediately. You see it's not published. We need just to publish it. Now, once we are enabling, we have multiple places where this field will appear. As I mentioned, it will appear in about 33 reports. For this specific case, you will see also in the templates, in business scenarios, which means the copy control, for example, from contract to sales order to delivery to invoice, and the all data APIs and SAP APIs if you'd like to expose to external systems and BAPIs. So quickly in the presentation, you could put this field also in the searchable places. You enable the field in all of those data sources, and there are many. You enable in the forms, so it will be in the outputs, in the printouts. You will see it in the copy controls, APIs, and not all, let's say traditional SOAP APIs, and the BAPIs automatically are updated. You also could have for some of the scenarios IDOCs, like for example, for business partners and others still there, and you just publish it. Once you publish, it will start publishing, and once published, you could start using it. Let's see, this is the standard SAP app. We need to add here a column which will include the humidity range. So in all of the sales orders, you will be able to add this value. You're just saying it's published. And the next step will be, once you're going to SAP order, it will compile all the screens. In order, this field will appear. After some of the compilation, it almost will compile every screen. You could go to the sales order, and in sales order, you see in the custom field tab, this field automatically added, and you could just populate it. So it takes about 3 seconds to do it. Now, if you're going to some of the apps, you could just utilize this immediately as well. It's apps with various technologies, SAP UI5, this app, and SAP HTML GUI, the standard SAP order. So how could you do it? Let's add this field to the sales order. You just pressing this place, Adapt UI, and in Adapt UI, it's opening the new screen with new capabilities. You're just looking for the list of the fields in the specific level that you would like to add. So if you added this to the scenario sales document item, you will look it on the item level. You will just see immediately those fields available to attach to the app. So you don't need to code anything. It's on the fly. So you're just attaching the column, and you could have it straightforward. Nothing need to be coded. You need just to save, exit, reload. Don't forget to do it. And if you would like also to add here some of the columns, just look in the settings, in the range over here, select the humidity range, put it up, and here we go. We just added this column. We could also adapt filters for some of the graphs. Almost immediately, we could select here humidity, and humidity will be a factor. No coding. You could select from the list, straightforward, do it. So now we get the result with two fields in two places just added within the matter of the minutes. So the troubleshooting tip for this exercise, it's cache cleanup in the NetWeaver. This is one, and there are many other blogs around it. So it's a good in theory, right? But let's see. I will bring the system and I will try to show if you could do it straightforward. So this is the real system. This is the field, custom field and logic app. I'll just shoot this app, and I will just edit. So pressing here, let's say will be business content. Let's edit to some of the sales order header, for example. So we have a lot of possibilities where we could add this field on the fly. So let's see, sales document. This is the sales order header, and in the slides that I created just as the backup for this real presentation, it's sales order item. So we'll put sales order document. Let's say, what is your mood? So let's say that the sales order taker will say what is your mood of the person who is on the other side of the line. And we have here all of this list. Let's say code list, and say, okay, we could be better, and add also not really good. So I've just created 3 just for example. Create an exit. I'm opening the place where I could use it. First of all, you see the same list. Let's say in the wire reports, I will say this is a SAP GUI. You could just enable. You could enable in other apps. Let's say anything that you would like. So just I suggest enable everywhere. Then use it. Not necessarily need to use it, but just provide the possibility to your key users maybe to add it in the future. We don't know. Some other people will say only add it when you really need it. So the 2 approaches, both approaches are okay. Customers 360 and some other apps, all of those Fiori apps, this field will be for your use. That some paging need to be improved by SAP. It's just friendly advice, so this will not jump. So here you see also search relevance. So if search relevance, you will be able to add this field to your filters and searches. So I also suggest you to make it automatically searchable. It's very simple. What I'm doing right now is I'm preparing append structure. but it's not really append structure in something much better. You will see it in a second. The append structure you need to expose in our old way of doing things. This one, SAP provided for us all the work that they exposing themselves. So it's a two-step process. You need to enable and so why I'm suggesting to enable everything. So sometimes when we try to add some of the field, it was not sure why you could see it in one place, why not. We spent some time for debugging until I just decided to enable it everywhere. And once I enable it everywhere, it's just compiled. I believe that SAP GUI part is this sales.gui. This is the major one for this specific business scenario. It refreshed something in the background, I think, because it's still based on general SAP Ayyappan way of thinking. Maybe not. So here, this is our printouts. So we're still investigating this. Okay, I'm not disabling. Those business scenarios are actually copy controls, if you're aware of what SAP SD is. And this is the new APIs that we could utilize using the same field. It will be added automatically to standard SAP APIs. So you could utilize in your development the standard SO AP. Let's say I'm also adding everywhere, and BAP is automatically updated. So another discovery, what we did, we need to save. Once we're saving, I suggest not to publish this field from here, all the fields, but to publish it one by one. It will be done faster. So for example, here, we just will see. Oops. I think I just edit this. Need to refresh. And you see more. What is your mood? Straightforward here. Let's go to 1. And let's publish it one by one. It will be much faster. So it will publish those fields everywhere. It takes some time, but in the end of the day, you'll just love it because you will be able to edit. Let's see. The screen. I'm looking for the F5 just to refresh it from time to time. It takes some time, but the result will be good. Any questions so far till now? Am I running too fast?
No, it's okay, Adi.
So I'll just jump to the presentation. I will just explain what we're trying to do. So we completed all of those stages. We're just waiting when the new fields will be just published. So we completed all, and I put it in the slide also that the publishing could take some time. because SAP populating it's everywhere in all the scenarios and all screens and all APIs. It's done for us, so it's actually amazing because we will not need to spend any time ourselves to add the field to screens or to APIs and elsewhere. It will populate it automatically. And here you see that we added some of the columns that we showed in the PowerPoint. So it was specifically the humidity range. You could see in published code. I will just walk through what we showed you somewhere else. You don't need to publish it twice. It's just publishing just once. And one more time, let's see. This F5. Okay. If I will try to do it just one by one, you will see it's taking. So just the process is running. So I have to actually do it one by one, not select all of them. Yeah, this is my take from this process. Once it's publishing, it's taking some time. And if you will try, meanwhile, to create sales order, for example, of course, you will receive a short dump. I'll just show you on the screen. It's compiling because maybe it's already available. So that means that SAP already picked up this field. So just compile it. Let me just see if somebody's just waiting in the. Oh, I just utilize this time to add somebody. Okay, let's see. Let's create some order. It will compile as well. So it's compiled because you will see this field immediately in all the applications. So specifically, just run some of the. I'm on the call with this customer 10001, and I need to add what is the mood of this one. Previously, I just needed to put some in some of the note fields here. I will be able to see it at the here. It will appear over here after it will be published. So, or let's say printer. So what it does all the work that we usually try not to do, just to add this field everywhere across the app. So let's see. You also have the same custom logic up here. This was what we showed just previously, which we added. You can just save. And let's see. You see the short dump. Why? Because it's publishing with the new field. So we just try to do it in the middle of the process. So you need to take time and you need to complete it only when this status will be published. Otherwise, user will not be able to do it. So you need to complete this exercise and move the transports to the production when nobody's working on the system, because this field will be across multiple places. So this app also has additional features. You could extend data sources on the fly. Yeah, this is one of the features. You could put some of the custom logic, and you could utilize this custom logic for flexible workflow. This is probably will be some of the topics which my colleague Sarish will present some of and some other place. I'll just utilizing this time, and I will show this. You could utilize this flexible workflow for the sales documents. You could create on the fly a flexible workflow with some of the conditions, and you could utilize other apps that SAP also share it. For example, it's app called Manage Workflow. So it's a new way how you could manage the workflows. So here, let's say they have multiple scenarios. You could use them as well. Let's see if it's published. I'm just eager to see. Okay, here it's published. If it's published, now we need to go to the sales order and see this field will appear. Let's keep our fingers crossed. So it's worked. Here we go. You see, this field is available on the fly. So now we also could add this to some other apps, like your choice. So I not planned this. So this is the real one. Just tell me what would you like to see. Anything that could come to your idea. So let's say in the sales order, manage sales orders.
Yep. Yeah, we can look at managed sales order.
And so I would like to add this to the filter. If you look into adapt filters, more filters. What is your mood? We didn't do anything. And this is SAP UI5. You could save. Just put some transport, just in case. And go. Here, you could find out what is your mood. Let's search. Some of the orders, and let's adapt. Maybe this is not this one. Should actually bring one.
I think the order was not saved.
Okay, let's go and actually save the order. I think it was just in the incompletion log. This one, let's save. Let's pick up the number. Okay, 4931. So go back to manage sales orders. It's called mood 1931 on the fly. So any other ideas? Would you like to see something else? If you're coming to see this order, it will just run all of apps, and in the custom, you see it was okay. On the fly. It's very powerful to aid everywhere else. Predicted delivery delay. That the example that we showed in the app as well. You could just go here and you will see some of the fields. We also realized that sometimes you need to run some of the cleanups, and then you will be able to see it as well. One more thing, you need to press this Adapt UI. In Adapt UI, you have two subtabs, navigation and adaptation. In navigation, you could actually go to the place when you would like to find the new fields. For example, here the humidity. You will be able to see it here. So here was this was just a self-order item. Sometimes you just need to run some cache cleanup in order to see this field. But let's think that you have this field like Sydney weather, which we created and run some of the cache cleanups before. You just putting here Sydney weather. Just put it somewhere in the beginning. So we'll move it up. And here we go. We have orders with sunny, rainy, and windy. If we will go to this order, we could just see this field as well. Go to the change. It's updating with the new field as well. So you will see this from time to time. And if we will update in the custom fields, just put something new, could be better, takes too much time. And at the item level, we would say that the weather is, I believe it's windy outside. And the humidity, let's say it's a medium. Saving. Coming back. Coming to the predicted delivery delay. And here we're getting the results. That's in the nutshell. I think because we run over time, I'll probably not extend this presentation, but we just try to show you what is possible in a nutshell. I will not show you the capabilities, what is the possibility to use the same, you could imagine, utilization of the same in other apps, in some of the forms and the business scenarios. So the copy control will be available, so you will see it straightforward from the sales order to delivery and to invoice. And you also will be able to utilize it in standard SAP APIs. So you don't need to enable it second time. And this is in a nutshell. So more information, you could find in Massa's blog. This is the blog, and that's what we try to show you. Any questions?
Adi, just one suggestion, as in possibly for the viewers or the audience, you can also show how the new field that you had created can be added to a UI using the Adapt UI. It's all enough.
Okay, so yeah, that's good. So let's run it right now.
Yeah.
So let's select any of the apps.
Manage sales order, as in the one. Or from the predictive delivery, you can go to the sales order view that you had shown us by clicking on the sales order.
Yep.
On the number. Yeah. This is the Fiori view. You can possibly click at the Adapt UI button, and since the field was a header one, in the general information, click on one of the fields.
Yeah.
One of the fields. Plus.
And we could just add the field straightforward.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you.
No worries.
So what we just did, added this field. What is your mood? Just here.
Yeah.
Let's. We could create separate tile just for this, or just publish and save. Let's just publish.
Yes, and you can club these two to group it together, as in the value and the description. You can club these two fields and group it together, as in again, that's for people to. It's in UI navigation mode, so you might have to.
So we could just add here one additional one.
No, you can just select these two fields, the value and description. The description is on the right hand side here.
I just
control and click. Yeah.
You just definitely you could rearrange it.
Yep.
So
rearrange.
We could put it here. We could rearrange it. So we could just customize what we would like to, and you definitely could club it. And you could add something to the item level. But in order to add it to the item level, you just need to click to the navigation and literally go to the item level. And if you have a field in the item level, going back to the your adaptation, and in the item level, once we insert it, right, we could just add it in the right place. So it's we need just to adjust our thinking that every field which we added to the specific level, you could also include your adaptation specific level. So it's not straightforward. You need to understand which level are we adding to. So you need to think upfront, how will you use this field? If it will be header level or the item level, you need to think some planning before you adding. Of course, you could change it, but that's some rework. So how to do it? Just get here, and we could edit. Right. So I think this is in the nutshell. We try not to go over time a little bit, because we are about half an hour over time. I'm just conscious about people time. So this is the item level, and we added our fields to the header level. So if you will go to the order that we just created, I think what was the order number that we added the value? I mean, just to look for the order. Just to show, I need to search for the sales document. Yep.
I think it was 4931, Adi.
4931.
31.
Yep, that's exactly what I inserted. Yeah. I think we're just filtering something too much, actually. This order should come to this place. Let's just put go. And here, filter. So that equal to.
Could be a case that there's no delay in
Oh,
this.
it's actually there's no predicted delivery delay because this
Yep.
order is in the future.
Yep.
So this is not the right place for this order. But if let's change here something to the order, which that one. If you will change something here, we will see it. Could be better. We're just really improvising, so just trust us. It's going to predicted delivery delay. Okay, to document that one. Okay, and we could also adapt by humidity range. So I think it was the medium one, right? So I will remove the sales document. So expected result will be, it will pick up same order. Here we go. So this is in a nutshell, and open for questions. How guys about the time? So if you really would like to see even cooler stuff, I will ask Sarish to present how we could utilize similar functionality and manage sales documents workflows. Sarish, are you all right to present? I will give you just the control and just show what you did with the managed sales document workflow.
If the audience is okay, I can probably we have to give or respect the audience's time. If it's okay, if somebody can give us a go ahead, then we'll probably show how we can use custom logic. Otherwise,
my perspective, I record this. Would like to leave the meeting, welcome to leave, but you could just show, you'll record it and somebody could come back and see it as recorded.
Okay.
Let's utilize this possibility until we have the system. So
okay, perfect. So
just
with that,
control, and I will give you a control.
I can probably guide you, Adi, as in, just a few bits of code, nothing major. With the two fields that we have in the header, we can possibly write a code. So SAP to ensure that the upgrades are smoother, more frequent going forward, SAP recommends to use bodies for creating customizations. And SAP provides the list of bodies based on the business context. And the business context is nothing but, if it's going to be at a header level, item level. So the business context is already provided, and SAP provides pre-approved bodies for you to customize. And Adi, if you can go to the custom fields and logic app. In the custom logic, if you click on the addition symbol on the right hand side, here we're supposed to provide the business context. So let's assume we are doing it in sales document. You can start typing sales and you will have the sales document, billing document, wherever you want to, create that customization. Let's assume we are doing it at the header level. So these are the available bodies that we have. And if people have worked on the body, we have sales document, prepare, save, MV45 FCZ. So we can click on the sales document, check before save part, and create a description for it.
So we are trying to achieve that this workflow will check, for example, the field that we just added. What is your mood? If its mood is not good, let's send this sales order for approval to another user, because if the customer mood is not really good, so maybe we need to give a call to the customer. So this is the idea behind the scenes. We need to do it very quickly. We on the fly added the field. Let's apply this workflow only to sales orders where the mood of our customer is not really good. What do you think about this scenario? Will it fly?
It can fly. It just needs to. We just need to select the correct body, which is flexible workflow for sales document right now. We are in the save document body, which really looks at all the fields. We can write additional customization. Let's assume we would not be naming the client, but there is a precondition in a sales order. If the customer has a selected condition of PO number being mandatory, it could be from a customer master or from a contract that it is referencing. If there is a mandatory field check in the contract or the customer, and if you're entering an order and trying to save it without entering the PO number, it will not allow you to save it. So something like that can be easily achieved by creating a custom field in the sales document. And with the business scenario, these contract information can be pulled to sales order if it's referenced. And if you create a sales order without entering, or try to save the sales order without entering the PO number, it will just stop you there. And it is one of those customizations that we are looking at. Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, let's use this PO mandatory. So
we need to create a field. Yeah, we need to create a field PO mandatory.
I think we do have here the field PO mandatory. Am I correct? Let's just see. Okay, it's in the same app. That's why I said, like, could we?
Yeah, we can do one thing, as in, we can.
Let's say that the idea is, if custom field mood is not really good, let's send this sales orders for the approval. How about this?
Yeah, we can do that. We just need to go to the custom logic app.
Yep. Let me just pick the number, putting in the chat, so I'll not forget. This is the number of the sales order. Here I will run some of the cache cleaning as we just speak. I think this is just taking too long.
Yeah, exactly. There's some issue, so we can probably refresh the browser and go back to custom fields and logic, because it's taking a lot of time.
5. I don't think it should take so long.
Yeah, in the custom logic, in the same flexible workflow. Yep, you can.
Yeah, let's utilize this one that we built. Just let's change the condition. So here, instead of if sales order is this one, let's put the condition, the field.
Yeah, can you click on create draft?
Okay. So I will
and-
just let's comment this one.
No, not comment that, but in the line number 11,
Yep.
you can just remove and sales document instead of total net amount, just put control spacebar. Control spacebar.
Control space, yes.
Yeah. Is it?
No.
Nothing happened. Okay.
Control space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we see all the fields that we just added. Okay.
Is that what is your mood? Is the last one? If you see.
Yep. That's one that we just added.
Okay.
And the value was 103.
Yeah. So equal to 103. You can put it in quotes. Yeah.
Oops.
Single quotes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it where it's on my keyboard. Just 1 second. Okay.
And instead of greater, just put it as equal.
Yep.
Okay.
Why feel like statement N is invalid?
Because the statement number 10 has been completed with a full stop. You remove that and it should be okay.
It's done.
Okay. So the condition that we have put for triggering the workflow is if your sales document type is TA, which is the German translation for OR, and if the value of what is your mood is 103, which is already pre-coded with a reason.
And like a little bit, so it will be better in
viewing it. Okay. Yeah, so it will trigger a workflow. There is a configuration required for triggering a workflow. We're not getting into that. That's already in place. We just save the draft first.
Could we publish it?
No, first save it. And to the right of that is your publish. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Publish.
Right.
Could you come back?
Yeah, you can. So the underlying configuration has been completed. So please do bear in mind there is a configuration needed for workflow. All I've done is created that extra condition for triggering the workflow, which is already configured in case my value is what is my mode is 103. So we'll create a new sales order, Adi.
Would you like to walk through the app workflow sales?
Yeah. Okay.
Just to show what already been done. We will not do it at the moment, but just show in the managed sales document workflow what's been done already.
Okay. So
another app called this one, and we look into the sales orders.
So the fourth one is active. So we look at that. So okay, I'll probably give an overview before we look into the app, Adi. So
would you like me to come back?
Yeah, if possible, to the main screen, because the first configuration is teams and responsibility. So when we are configuring the workflow, we are supposed to configure the team and the responsibility of the team, which would be approving the app or approving the object which we are creating for workflow. This manage sales document workflow helps us to create pre-configured workflow for sales document without actually needing a workflow consultant or an ABAP consultant to work on it. So SAP has created 3 standard workflow IDs for sales order, quotation, and credit memo request, which needs to be configured. Which is pre-configured, I'm sorry, which is pre-configured, we just need to reuse it. So in the Manage Teams and Responsibility app, yeah, if you can click on that, Adi, please. Click on Go.
So what we are trying to do here is to arrange to whom we will send our workflow.
Correct. Yeah.
As it's stated, like we manage our team and who is the sender and who is the approver.
Yeah. Okay. So if you,
let me just check that we are in the right person.
Mhm.
So this is the draft.
Mhm. So in this workflow setting of teams and responsibility, what we are highlighting is if the order type is TA of standard order, we are looking at a team owner of Shirley who has created it, and the team members who can approve the workflow. So in here, if you click on the edit tab, edit button, Adi, the functions determine if it's a level 1 approver or a level 2 approver. So if you go to the function, yeah, these are two predefined functions provided by SAP. We can create it, but it might require some amount of tweaking for it to work. So these are the two level approvals that are being provided by SAP. Yes.
So it makes sense that you're sending your sales order for approval in case you're crediting your customer. So usually you don't need to make an approval for the sales order. Only when you're paying to the customer, in case of credit, that's the standard workflow and rationale behind the credit memo. So in case you would like still that some team lead will review your sales order and maybe approve or disapprove some of the discounts, this could be applied also for the sales order itself.
Very true. Very true. So in the teams and responsibility, I've decided the team members who would be approving it, it's John Doe, who would be approving the workflows or any workflow for sales order with order type standard order. I can configure it in such a manner that, let's assume in my sales organization for New South Wales, for a specific sales group, I can have my manager or a specific responsible person approve workflows. So it is all configured with the filters that we had seen. Adi, if you can scroll a little further up, up in the sense, I'm sorry. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
these are
some of the conditions.
Yeah. These are the preconditions that you can create for approvals in the workflow. So for one specific sales org, you can have a specific set of team. For another specific sales org, we will have a separate set of team, and there will be two different definitions. And the workflow parameters would be same, but we use the teams and responsibility to differentiate between the approvers. Okay, that's done. Adi, so we will go back to
just save or just do nothing.
Yeah. This is already saved, so we don't really. Yeah.
Okay. So
go back.
So we have it here. It's already saved. It's not draft anymore. We could come back to the main screen and
manage sales document workflow. Yeah.
So I believe it could be even transferred to some kind of super user in the end, because you don't really provide here anything but just telling, in this case, who will receive it, the user.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would like to give some few words about this part.
Yes. Okay, so this is the actual condition that we create in the system for workflows, where we define how many levels are there in my workflow. SAP has provided 2 levels, so we've configured it for 2 levels. So this is the workflow button. We can't really show you in the display mode, so we'll create a copy of it for it to be visible. So let's create a copy of it, Adi.
I believe copy is more or less like an edit. That's what I understood.
Yeah.
It's not really copy.
So you give the workflow name, decide the validity period where it's going to be valid. The preconditions that are provided by SAP for the workflow to be triggered have been provided here. So let's assume the start conditions. Adi, if you can click on the start condition drop down.
I'm just putting here some name that you'll see it's really doing this. It's yep.
The start conditions button. Start condition is start condition tab below the properties. Below the validity date.
Okay, sorry, here. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So these,
okay.
these are the predefined conditions that SAP has provided, that if the order type is OR, I can kick in my workflow. But if you remember, in the custom fields and logic app, we can put in our own conditions for the workflow to be triggered. So in addition to whatever is provided in the system, I can have custom logic built into the sales workflow app. So in here, I'm not putting any preconditions because I've already put the condition in the custom logic that only if my field, what is my mood, is 103 or okay, it will be triggered. So I have to define a sequence in the workflow event, which is release of sales order. Okay, if I just need to click on that. And the determination of agent could be through the Teams and Responsibility app, or directly, as Adi was suggesting, any workflow that goes into a specific region will go to only one user. Then we set that user in the workflow for sales document app. Yeah. So in here,
you could just search for the users, and you could add one or multiple users of the team. So we selected just one user just in case. So we also have capabilities to edit by role, but it's a little bit more complex. We will not show this during this presentation. So you will search it later.
Okay. So you can set deadlines to it. If this workflow is not completed within a day, you can put it as overdue. It
could do it in hours, minutes, and so on.
Yeah. So it will appear in the inbox as overdue for the workflow approver. It is not if it's not done within 1 day. And if the for exception handling, you are supposed to suggest what happens in case there's a exception. It will restart the workflow is what we usually suggest to as an action result. So we can cancel this, Adi, because we already have one which is similar to this.
Yep.
This was just, you can cancel this as well, and we'll just
we'll just come here and show how this in action. Let's say my sales overview. We'll just create right now a sales order. Let's just be sure the username.
That was Shirley on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the person who is going to create a sales order, and we expected result once we log in with the other user should receive a workflow notification, approve or disapprove. Okay, in the sales order, let's create. So our condition was that every order with the mood, would you like, I will put TA just in case, because we literally used it. So it's just a German edition. That's the one that we used. Let's put the material. Oh, sorry, it's not the one. Set print. Let's include here. This is a mood, right? So just to remember, where it is, 1. Continue. We need to edit at the header level. That's what we added as the condition. So 103. So we hard coded this. Could I save?
Yep.
Okay. So it has been saved. Now let's see what is happening if I will try to change. So I'm going to the change mode. It says sales order is in approval, no change allowed. So in order to proceed with this order, we need to log in as a person as the approver, and approver will receive this sales order for the approval. So let me just quickly sign out. And I will log in as a user. And I need to type password twice. I don't know why, but this is something that's happening to me. I think I'm just typing ahead. SAP code. Okay, so we actually wanted we needed to show this my inbox before and after, but let's assume our audience trusts us. That in my inbox, what was the order number? I think it was 2693.
4932, I guess.
This one.
49. Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay, so we have a list of the sales orders. Oh, let's create a new one. So we will see it. I have another screen opened by Shirley, just this one. I will create it on the fly right now. So we'll have 2 screens to show. We're creating order here. I will create it just now. Another order, just 1. This is mode 2. Let's go there, just in case. So it's everything live. So just be a little bit patient. I'll put it just here. 103. And I will save. Right. So let's show again that this order now 4933 is in the approval. So by the way, the previous one was 4932, right? So this is we just created. And if you refresh our inbox, you see we got another one. If you go back, you also see here 6. So it's proven. Now let's just release or request walk. So you have 2 buttons. The approver will receive it, release, say, okay, thank you, Sarish, for your help. It's recorded, submit. It disappeared from the workflow. Task successfully proceeded. I am now Shirley. This is the order that I just released. And in the change mode, I could see now I could deliver this order. Okay, we have some other topics, but as you could see, what we try to achieve is simple workflow being achieved. I think in this moment we'll probably ask if anyone in the audience, and I think Sandy and Reno, thank you for staying with us till the end, and I think you enjoyed a little bit new things that we showed, and it's also will be available for the recording. I think Sarish will be great if you switch on your camera and will present yourself. It will stay as recorded as well.
Okay, let me just.
I asked every presenter to present, so just for the history and for the future and for next generations.
Okay.
Everyone could switch on cameras, and I will stop sharing my screen. So, somebody, thanks all. Thank you, Sandy. Sandy tried to help us a lot with the workflow. I believe this is the right Sandy. So,
yes, I did. Thank you so much, guys, for tonight.
thank you for trying to help us. Actually, the problem that we found was not with the workflow, but with assignment of the users to the role. And this was just provided by SAP out of the box for the credit memo, not for the sales order. So we debugged a lot for the workflow, but it was not really the place to look. We learned a lot, and we learned this topic, let's say. But yeah, our architect mentioned that it was worthless time, that problem at the end of the day in SAP. And look, it was, I think, great experience. So Sarish, for recording, I will shut up myself and my camera, and that's all yours.
No. The simple fact with the sales document workflow is that we really don't need a technical resource. Everything can be done with the help of a functional consultant. A mere bit of coding that was done is if statements that anybody can write. Everything else can be functionally configured. That's the beauty of the custom fields and logic app and the various apps that SAP has provided with in-app extensibility. So that's one of the things that we learned over the past few months, to be honest. And that's the thing that I wanted to share today. Thanks, Adi, for the opportunity.
Thanks for everyone, and it's recorded. We will share the recording with more people. I understand it's very hectic day. We just had the SAP UX Practitioner Forum just before this meeting, and probably people just couldn't stay on the meetings for more than a few hours, and also after a work week. But once we publish this in the YouTube, I will create the YouTube link. You could just populate it and ask opinion of everyone. So in this notice, probably I will ramp up and see you with the opportunity next week or sometimes.
Yep.
And yeah, thank you and goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.